بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على عبد الله ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Today inshaAllah ta'ala will be the last Bulugh al-Maram class in this time before Ramadan. Insha'Allah ta'ala we will resume after Ramadan according to what is easy in terms of getting permission and making sure the class is organized and things like that. But bi'idhnillahi ta'ala the intention is there to begin again after Eid. We are in the last three hadith, or the last three ahadith in Bab al-Musafiri wal-Marid, the chapter of the traveler and the sick person. وعن عمران بن حسين رضي الله عنهما أنه قال كانت بي بواسير فسألت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الصلاة فقال صل قائما فإن لم تستطع فقاعدا فإن لم تستطع فعلى جنب رواه البخاري. From Imran ibn Husayn radiyallahu anhuma that he said, I was suffering from hemorrhoids. So I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about prayer. He said to me, pray standing, and if you're unable to do so, pray sitting, and if you're unable to do so, then on your side. And the hadith is narrated by Al-Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ visited Imran ibn Husayn when he was sick. And what he was sick is that he had a bad case of hemorrhoids, which is a sickness that affects, or an illness that affects a person in their rear, and they suffer from quite a lot of pain, sometimes sitting, moving around, and some discharge and things like that. Naturally, when the Prophet ﷺ visited Imran ibn Husayn, it was natural that Imran radiallahu anhu would ask him about the salah. How should I pray? And the Prophet ﷺ gave him a clear instruction on how he should perform the prayer. And this instruction works for the sick person. Now bear in mind that Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala put this in the topic of the traveler and the sick. Why did Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar join between the traveler and between the sick person? Because both of them have the right to join. Both of them have the right to join the prayers together. Because as we said, joining the prayers together is something which can be done whenever there is a need. And since the sick person and the traveler both have the permission to join the prayers together, it makes sense to put them both in the same chapter. Let's look at the words of the hadith. Pray standing. This indicates that standing is a pillar of the prayer in the fariḍah, in the obligatory prayers. As for in the voluntary prayers, you can sit down, but you get half of the reward. As for the obligatory prayers, you are obliged to stand unless you are unable to stand. And this is important for us in the mas'ala of the person who is able to stand but not able to make sujood. This is the case of many people these days among the elderly. They are actually more comfortable standing than anything else, but they're unable to make sujood. So their salah is invalid if they pray sitting down. According to the stronger opinion, their salah is invalid if they pray sitting down. because they are perfectly able to stand. Their problem is that they cannot make sujood, or they cannot make ruku'. But if you are able to stand, it is obligatory for you to stand. Now, we don't mean that you put yourself under extreme hardship. If you stand, you're feeling faint, you're feeling dizzy, you might fall over. No, you sit down. That's a different situation. But we're talking about most people who pray on a chair are able to stand, they're just not able to make ruku' or sujood. Those people, it is obligatory. Rather, the validity of their prayer depends upon them standing. As we see in this hadith, Salli qa'ima, pray standing up. And we know that Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 238, and stand up to Allah, or stand up in front of Allah in silence. As for the nafilah prayer, then it is half the reward. In the nafilah prayer, you receive half of the reward if you sit down, but you are welcome to sit down. Again, many people, not so much in Dubai, but we do get these questions in the UK about people asking about praying in the car. If it's a faridah, you can't pray it in the car. If it's a faridah, you have to stand up if you are at all able to do so. As for the voluntary prayers, you can pray them in the car, you can pray them sitting on a chair, you can pray them sitting on the floor, but you will receive half of the reward. فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَقَاعِدًا. This is part of a beautiful principle, which is the principle that al-mashaqqatu tajlibu at-taysir. Hardship brings about ease. And the principle فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. So you're unable to stand. Now it doesn't mean you're unable to stand at all, but you're unable to stand for the prayer. You maybe have a dizziness, or you have pain in your legs, or pain in your back when you stand for a long time. Then if you're unable to stand, فَقَاعِدًا, so sit down. But when you pray sitting, now you're praying sitting, this is again obligatory for the one who can't stand. So it's not allowed to say, I can't stand, so I'm going to pray lying down. You have to follow the order in the hadith. You're not able to stand, sit. As for the way that you sit, then this has some flexibility, but we're going to hear in the last hadith that sitting on the floor cross-legged is sitting on the floor in a cross-legged position is one of the best ways to pray sitting. But sitting on a chair is also acceptable according to a person's need. We talked about the position of the chair last time, so we won't go into that much detail. What does the person praying on the chair do? As we're going to hear in our second hadith, they do not have to they do not put something high to put their forehead on, or they do not have to get down from the chair if that's hard for them and make sujood. What they need to do is to bow or to lower their head, each the sujood lower than the ruku'. So for example, the ruku' might be here, the sujood might be here. As for what you see of the people putting their hands like this is a bid'ah that we know of no evidence for whatsoever. The people putting their hands like this when they make sujood. That is not what the Prophet ﷺ did, and it's not what he commanded. If I'm not mistaken, Shaykh Fawzan, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, considered it from al-bid'ah, from the innovations for the people to make sajda like this, where they have their hands out in the position of sajda and they put their face level with their hands. There is no evidence for this. Rather, the way that you make sajda is simply your ruku' is higher up and your sujood is lower down. That is the only requirement. فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَعَلَى جَنْبٍ. And if you are not able, then pray on your side. And that is, it is better, you can pray on your side whichever way you want, because the hadith is general. But it's better that you lie on your right side facing the Qibla. So in this case, it's not like your head is facing the Qibla, your face and your body is facing the Qibla on your right hand side. This is the best way of doing it. Somebody may not be able to do that. For example, a sick person in a hospital bed may not be able to move the direction of the bed. They do their best that they can. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. What does a person do if they are unable to pray on their side? Here the scholars have two different opinions. There are those who say that the person must still pray and do whatever they can. And they went back to the hadith, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. And they said even if the person prays with their eyes or the person prays with their heart, at the end of the day, they do the most that they can. If you're paralyzed but you're conscious, and this happened, wallah, I had a sister contact me just about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Perfectly healthy, mashallah, but she was in hospital at that time, and she was restrained into the bed. She can't move. Completely conscious. But because of the operation, she can't move. She's completely conscious, knows everything that's happening, and asks, can I pray? I said, okay, can you stand? She said, no. I said, can you sit? She said, no. I said, can you lie down? She said, no, I can't, I am unable to move any part of my body. I'm unable to move to move my head, because if you're lying on one side, what you'll do is just move your head or your shoulders for sujood and ruku'. She's unable to do that. So here the scholars have two different opinions. One group says that this person should pray to the best of their ability. If they can pray with their eyelids, halfway for ruku' and all the way for sujood, no problem. If they cannot and they pray in their heart, no problem. Another group, and among them Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, said that the salah is not obligatory upon them, because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned three things and he didn't go beyond praying on the side. So the one who's not able to pray on the side is not required to pray. However, the opinion that we take is the opinion of Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan hafidhahullah ta'ala, that the safer opinion is that the person should pray however they can, out of an abundance of safety. Even if we say that we think this opinion of not praying has some validity, but still at the end of the day, and it's better for the person to try and pray, and then if they didn't need to pray, there is no harm. But it's better than to say to somebody, no, don't worry, you don't have to pray because you can't move your head or something like that. It's better that we tell the person that they should pray, and this is what I prefer, the opinion that I prefer, that a person prays with their eyelids, with their finger, with their heart, with whatever they can move to show their ruku' and their sujood. They can pray with that, even if it is only in the heart, because ultimately Allah Azza wa Jal gave us a principle, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. Now if you are conscious, you can pray, you can say the words, you can say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. You can either say it in your mind, you can say it on your lips. The point is that the person is able, they have istita'ah, they have ability to be able to say it. But because they can't move their head, do we say to them no? We say to them no. The general principle is fear Allah as much as you can. If the only thing you can do is move your finger, or move your eyelids, or move your, or just even imagine, visualize the prayer in your heart, if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. But each person has to do the most that they are able to do. And there is no doubt that it is permissible for the sick person to join between the prayers. Now, as for shortening the prayers, the scholars differed over shortening the prayers for the sick person, with many of them saying that the sick person does not shorten the prayers, but they can join. They can join between the prayers. They said the evidence for shortening the prayer is limited to the traveler. As for the sick person, they are not in a state of any that, like the traveler going from place to place, on the road. They are in their place, but their difficulty is that they might be not feeling well at certain times, so they can delay the prayer or they can bring the prayer forward, jam'u taqdeem or jam'u ta'khir, as we spoke about in the last class. وعن جابر رضي الله عنه أنه قال عاد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مريضا فرآه يصلي على وسادة فرمى بها وقال صل على الأرض إن استطعت وإلا فأومي إيماء وجعل سجودك أخفض من ركوعك. رواه البيهقي وصحح أبو حاتم وقفه. From Jabir radiallahu anhu that he said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited a sick person and he saw him praying upon a pillow. The meaning of this is because of the position he's in, he doesn't want to he can't put his forehead on the ground. So instead he puts something raised up high so that he can put his forehead on that thing which is raised up high, thinking that you have to touch your forehead to something attached to the ground. Okay, I can't touch the ground, let me put a big pillow so that I can touch the pillow. The Prophet ﷺ took the pillow and he threw it away. He pushed it away. And he said, pray on the ground if you are able, and if not, gesture. What do you have for ima in your translation? Do you have something different to gesture or gesture? No. So you gesture. Like in other words, you lower your head, you gesture. And make your sujood lower than your ruku'. Make your sujood lower than your ruku'. So for example, each person is different. A person only has the ability to get to here. They can only get to like 45 degrees because of back pain or something like that. So they should make their ruku' at halfway, like example, 20 degrees, and then the sujood at 45. The main thing is the sujood should be lower than the ruku'. And it is not necessary, as we said, for them to gesture in any way with their hands, or for them to, to put their hands level with their face or raise their elbows up or anything like that. It is sufficient for them simply to gesture using their head. And this is narrated by Al-Bayhaqi, and Abu Hatim said that it is authentic as a statement of Jabir radiallahu anhu. And this shows that we don't put a box. Like some people might think, there is no, the word cushion here is not specific. I mean, some people might think, okay, I'm sitting on a chair, I should put another chair to make sujood on, like in front of my forehead, so that I can make sujood on it, or a big box that I can touch my forehead to. No, it is sufficient for you simply to gesture using the head. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها أنها قالت رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي متربعا رواه النسائي وصححه الحاكم. From Aisha radiallahu anha that she said, I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam praying when he was sitting down. What do you have in your translation? Do you have cross-legged? That is what I would have used also. Cross-legged, and it's narrated by An-Nasa'i and declared authentic by Al-Hakim. This describes one of the ways that a sick person can sit, should they wish to. And that is to sit sort of on the backside with the legs in front of you, sort of what you would say in a cross-legged position. However, if they feel more comfortable sitting like the position of the tashahhud, for example, or they feel more comfortable sitting on a chair because of the pain that they are having, there is no harm. This is a matter of preference, not a matter of obligation. And the evidence for that is that the Prophet ﷺ did not command us to pray cross-legged. He was seen praying cross-legged, which indicates to us that this is the best way of the sick person praying, but it's not a requirement. It's not an obligation for a sick person to pray in the cross-legged position. By the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, we finished Babu Salat al-Musafiri wal-Marid, the chapter of the prayer of the traveling person and the sick person. And the next chapter we have is Salatul Jumu'ah. Now we're going to, inshallah ta'ala, leave that until after Ramadan, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The way the class is going to work is like this. Inshallah ta'ala, we are going to try and reapply for the permissions and everything like that. We'll see how long it takes to get everything through from the Islamic Affairs and Charitable Activities Department, all the permission and all the things in place. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll give people chance, and those who go away for Eid and things like that, but probably a couple of weeks after that, we will make a start, inshallah ta'ala. But we're hoping to be better with the videos and things, so we'd hope that if anyone is missing during the summer, they'll be able to watch the videos as much as possible. Now I have some questions from last week that were quite comprehensive and I said would take a very long time. So what I want to do, inshallah, is I want to deal with those now. They'll take quite a little while to answer. So the first one was, does dua change qadr? There are ahadith which indicate that dua changes qadr. However, we have to understand this properly, we have to understand that there are two types of qadr. There is an eternal qadr that is written in the lawh al-mahfuz, and this does not change. In fact, your dua that you make is written in there, as is the change written in there. So for example, let's say that we have Abdullah, and Abdullah is going to die tomorrow, and tonight Abdullah raises up his hands and says, "Oh Allah, give me a good life, extend my life." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extends his life. If we were to look at the Lawh al-Mahfuz, what would be there? The original and the dua and the change. All of them would be written in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, because nothing escapes what is written in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. The second type of qadr is the qadr which Allah Azza wa Jal exposes or gives knowledge of to any one of his servants that he wills, such as the angels. So he says, for example, to the angel of death, that this year, this person is decreed to die. That is possible to change. What doesn't change is the qadr in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. As for the qadr which is on a daily basis or a yearly basis, or the qadr which is given to the angels, the qadr which is revealed to whomsoever Allah Azza wa Jal wills, that qadr can change. That qadr can change because it's not an eternal qadr. It's a decree from Allah to that angel. And that can change. As for the Lawh al-Mahfuz, it doesn't change. But what does happen is that the original, the dua and the change are all written in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. I hope that helps. I have a video on qadr which explains in more detail, but that is just as brief of an answer as I can. Okay. Okay. So someone is asking about completing the missed raka'at after joining the Imam late. As we said, the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. This is very important. This word atimmu, if you had it in Arabic, underline it 10 times. It is so important. This word atimmu. There is a weak narration in this hadith which says faqdu. This is a weak narration, it's not authentic. The authentic wording is atimmu. Whatever you miss, continue making it up. Do not start at the beginning. So this idea people have, that you come in and the Imam is in the third raka'ah out of 4. You come in and you join the Imam in that third raka'ah. That is raka'ah number 1 for you, not raka'ah number 3. It's number 3 for the Imam, it's number 1 for you. Number 4 for the Imam is number 2 for you. The Imam finishes, you stand up and pray number 3, and then again you pray number 4. This idea that you pray 3 and 4 with the Imam and then pray 1 and 2, this is based on a weak wording of the hadith. وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَقْضُوا. Whatever you miss, make it up. That's not what the Prophet ﷺ said, make it up. He said, whatever you miss, complete it onwards. Complete it onwards. وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. Whatever you miss, go onwards and finish it from there. So it is not the case that you pray, you stand up and pray raka'ah number 1 and 2. Rather, you stand up and pray raka'ah number 3 and raka'ah number 4. Now, the confusion people are having is the second surah after Surah Al-Fatiha. The second surah, as we said in our classes, is mustahab by ijma', meaning that nobody from the scholars said that you have to read a second surah. No one, not a single scholar said you have to read a second surah. They said it's recommended to read a second surah. So you join the Imam, it's your first rak'ah. If you can read a second surah, alhamdulillah. If you can't read a second surah because the Imam has gone into ruku', you don't need to read a second surah. This is by consensus, because the scholars differed about what you have to read, as we've said in the topic of the description of the salah. Some of the scholars, such as the Hanafiya, they said, فَقَرَأُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. Whatever you read from the Qur'an is enough. They said a minimum of 3 ayat. Yani whatever 3 ayat you read. Yani according to the Hanafiya, if you just read قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٍ in every raka'ah, your salah is valid. If the only thing you did is read قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٍ. However, we said the stronger opinion, and even the Hanafi ulama mentioned this, is that to go with the majority so that we're all together, is that to say that the minimum is Surah Al-Fatiha. Why is this better? Because the Hanafis don't have a problem with Surah Al-Fatiha. The Hanafis themselves say that you can read Fatiha or anything else. فَقَرَأُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. Read whatever is easy from the Qur'an. However, the majority said you have to read Fatiha. And some of them said your salah is invalid if you don't read it. Therefore, they said in order to bring us together in a way that we don't differ, then in this case we say we read Fatiha. As for the second surah, it is mustahabba bil ijma'. It is only a recommendation by consensus. So even if you don't read it, it is not an issue. Now the issue comes with the issue of following the Imam when you are, and this is where we get a little bit more complicated. So I'm going through still the same question. Is the issue of following the Imam when the Imam is sitting long for tashahhud, so the Imam is sitting making dua, long tashahhud, and you're only in your first tashahhud. So do you follow the Imam in making dua, or do you simply stop at Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallayta ala Ibrahim? That is one that I don't know. Allahu a'lam. There are two principles there that contradict each other. Thirdly, or that appear to me to contradict each other until I research it more. Thirdly, if I join the Imam in sujood late, I haven't completed the raka'ah. Have I prayed more sujood than I need to? No, you have not. You have done correctly. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا. Whatever you meet the Imam doing, do what he does. So it doesn't matter that you will have prayed 4.5 rakaat. Are you with me? You will have prayed 4.5. Because you prayed 4 full, and with the Imam you just caught the first sajda. So you've kind of prayed like 4.5. That doesn't matter because of the command of the Prophet ﷺ, فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا. Whatever you find the Imam doing, join him and pray. Okay, do we recite Surah Al-Fatiha before the ruku'? We dealt with this in the Bulugh al-Maram classes, and we said that it is not a requirement to recite Surah Al-Fatiha before the ruku'. This is the position of the four madhahib from the Hanafi and the Maliki and the Shafi'i and the Hanabila. And some of the scholars from the ulama of Hadith said that you have to recite Surah Al-Fatiha before the ruku', and the position of the four madhahib is that you do not have to recite. Yani if you catch the Imam in ruku', you have caught the raka'ah, even if you don't recite Al-Fatiha. However, if you have time to recite it, that's a different matter. And you join the Imam, you have time to recite it, and then you make ruku', there is no problem with that, inshallah. So I answered all of the questions in that question except for the third one. In the tashahhud, when the Imam is making a long tashahhud, do you copy the Imam in his full dua, or do you stop at Allahumma salli ala Muhammad? This is something that requires further research from my side. Okay, did we have any questions to finish off, guys? And it doesn't have to be about the class, inshallah. So if I get this right, there are two Imams. One of them has memorized more, and one of them he has a better recitation. The scholars actually differed about this order in the sense that some of them took the different wordings, like the wording aqra. Yani aqra, he has a better qira'ah, his better recitation, and ahfaz, better memorization, and they differed. But if we go with the one that we said, which we said that ahfaz comes before aqra, yani the one who has better hifth comes before the one that has better recitation, on the condition that the one that has more hifth is able to recite properly. So we have here two people. One of them is hafiz, one of them has memorized, let's say, 10 juz. The one who has memorized 10 juz has better quality recitation, but the hafiz's recitation is okay. It's enough to get by. Then we put him forward first of all. But if his recitation is not good enough, for example, he is pronouncing his letters incorrectly, he's mixing one letter with another, then in this case, we would put forward the one that has the better pronunciation, because in this case, the pronunciation of the first takes him away from being a rightful imam in this situation, inshallah. And that's the same for the sunnah, by the way, because you'll hear the scholars differ over, generally the hadith mentioned the sunnah coming after the Quran. But there's a certain amount of sunnah that has to be present in everyone that leads the salah. And that is a basic ability to lead the salah, a basic fiqh of how to lead the salah, basic knowledge of what to do, that they give people time, for example. It's one of the hardest things to do as an imam, is to give people time. Because as an imam, you pray at your normal speed and it feels to the people behind you like you're rushing. You're praying normal speed, you're praying slowly, carefully, but it feels to the people behind you that you're rushing, because by the time the news gets to the back row, it takes them time. So, knowing how to do things properly, this is a condition of all of the imams, a basic knowledge of how to lead the prayer. However, if that basic knowledge is there, then the sunnah comes after, the additional knowledge of the sunnah comes after the hifth and the qira'ah of the Quran. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Turan, you had a question? I don't know. I don't want to use the word mustahab, only because I didn't find it from someone in the explanations of the hadith from the scholars. They mention al-afdaliyah, that it is the best way of sitting. But can we extract from the hadith al-istihbab? This requires some thought. Allah knows best. But what the scholars mention, what the shuruhat that I've seen, what they mention is al-afdaliyah, and it's the best position to sit in. It's better than the other positions. Does that, issue with istihbab is the issue of daleel. Like, is this daleel enough that the Prophet ﷺ was seen sitting like that? Is that enough to make it mustahab? Allah knows best. Yeah.
If you can't see the Imam, let's say you're outside the masjid or you're in the female prayer room, where do you start this off? The center or the right?
So if you can't see the Imam, where do you start the saf? So for example, in the ladies section, we said, remember about in the hadith, خَيْرُ صُفُوفِ الرِّجَالِ أَوَّلُهَا وَشَرُّهَا آخِرُهَا, that the best row for the women is the back, but when they're in their own area, they can go from the front. And if they don't know where the Imam is, then to the best of my knowledge, they start in the middle. They start in the middle of the saf. Someone can go and get the papers, inshallah. They start in the middle of the saf, and then they go to the right and the left, to the right and the left. This is apparent. But if they start from the right or the left, it's not like, this is a matter of like, there is no evidence to say where they start from. It is only a matter of ijtihad. It's a matter of using your best, judgment about what they should do. Okay, mashallah. We have a few questions from the sisters today. Zain. Bismillah. Okay, that one we did. Alhamdulillah. We just did it, mashallah. Same question about where the ladies stand. We said, if you can't see the Imam, I think in the center of the front row is reasonable. While traveling, if we cannot stop the bus, what is better? To wait and join or pray sitting in the car? You can't pray a faridah in the car. It's not a choice in the first place. You have no choice. You have to join the prayer with the one that is after it. As for an emergency, like, the bus is broken down and the doors are all locked, then in this case you pray sitting. Because in this case, it comes down to like the plane. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. On the plane, you cannot stand and pray because they will simply not let you. And even if one person will stand and pray, the rest of the plane will not be able to stand and pray. So this comes to an issue of fear Allah as much as you can. A person wants to take health insurance in India. Would taking insurance be halal? Because if he takes the treatment, it would cost a fortune. Wallahi, matters relating to India and insurance, these should be asked to the mashayikh of India, inshallah. Insurance in general is haram. We know that. We know that the concept of insurance is haram because it is based upon uncertainty. It is based upon you pay something, you may get a lot back, you may get nothing back. You may pay 20 years and get only 5% of what you paid. You may pay 2 days and get 500% of what you paid. And this is haram. As for the situation in India about costing a fortune and necessity, I would suggest that you direct that question to our Sheikh Dhafar Al-Hassan, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala. Can you please explain the difference between Istighfar and Tawba? Okay. Istighfar is from ista, by the way. Whenever you get ista like that in Arabic, it means to seek. Okay? So Istighfar means to seek al-ghufran, to seek ghufran, to seek, like when you say ghufranak, to seek maghfirah or to seek ghufran, to seek forgiveness. So what is the linguistic meaning of ghufran? The linguistic meaning of ghufran is to cover something up, to conceal and cover. So when you say istighfar, you are asking Allah Azza wa Jal to conceal that sin for you and to stop the negative consequences of it. To stop the negative consequences of it. So for example, whenever you sin, you have negative consequences. Don't think, by the way, that you sin and you didn't get a consequence today means that Allah has let it go. Some of the scholars said, I was prevented from Qiyamul Layl because of a sin that I did 40 years before. Meaning that that sin waited for me for 40 years and then it came to me. Sins sometimes wait for you in hiding. So istighfar is to ask Allah Azza wa Jal to cover it up. Don't let any negative consequences happen to me. Conceal it for me. Wipe it out for me. Tawba is stricter. Tawba is stricter. Because in Tawba, what is Tawba in Arabic? Tawba in Arabic is an-nadam, it's regret. The linguistic meaning of Tawba in Arabic is regret. So when we say Tawba, it requires regret, stopping what you are doing, intending never to do it again, and making up for the harm that you've done. If you don't bring those 4 things, you have not made Tawbah. So which one is easier? Istighfar. Tawbah is needed though. Tawbah is essential. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to make Tawbah in many places in the Quran. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, and to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all you believers. And the statement of Allah Azza wa Jalla, Tubu ilallahi tawbatan nasuha. Make tawbah to Allah with a sincere tawbah. But tawbah is hard. It requires thought. It requires accepting that you've sinned. It requires regret, real regret. And you'll think of some sins where you feel it. There are some sins when you think about them, they just hurt, you get a pain in your chest. That's tawbah. But are you able to do that for every single sin? Perhaps not. You try, but it's a process. As for istighfar, it's the first step after i'tiraf. The first step is i'tiraf. You confess that you sinned. The first step is asking Allah, oh Allah, I messed up. Cover it for me. Then you work towards gaining knowledge till you feel regret and you stop doing it. You have any firm intention never to do it again. No. Is praying 2 units of Salatul Istighfar from the Sunnah? If you commit a sin and you pray 2 rakaat and ask Allah to forgive you, this is from the Sunnah. Sometimes these names are a bit like, giving them names like this, we don't sometimes recognize the names people give them. But the concept that when a person does a sin, and he prays 2 rakaat, sincerely turning his heart to Allah, asking Allah to forgive him, then this is, inshallah ta'ala, something praiseworthy. Is there something like we have to recite 3, 5, 7 or 11 times in ruku' and sujood, or can it be any number of times, and does it have to be consistent? No, it can be any number of times. The minimum number is 1, and you can recite as much as you wish, and the sunnah is 3. However, you can add to that as you wish, including adding other adhkar, and you don't have to be consistent that if you did 1 in ruku' you have to do 1 in sujood. It's not the case. But 3 is the usual. The usual is 3, and then you change to a different dhikr. So you did Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, and then you might change to Allahumma laka raka'tu wa bika amantu wa laka aslamt, or one of the other adhkar. If you want to keep on going, you can keep on going. And there's no thing that says has to be 3 or 5 or 7, except perhaps for the hadith, Inna Allaha witrun yuhibbul witr. Indeed, Allah is odd in number, and He loves those things which are odd in number, but not specifically. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. Inshallah ta'ala, we will see you after Eid. In terms of this masjid, I'll be here a couple of times during Ramadan with some small, they won't be advertised, just some small, usually a Wednesday, just some small speech, a small reminder between the Taraweeh or something like that. Other activities I have in Ramadan is we're booked for the Multaqa, the Ramadan gathering speeches. I think I have one in Marina and I have one in An-Nahda, inshallah ta'ala. The dates will be advertised with the Islamic Affairs and Charitable Activities Department of the Government of Dubai with their usual Ramadan gathering program, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And then inshallah ta'ala the Eid khutbah, if Allah Azza wa Jal makes it easy, will be with KALEMAH. I'll be doing the Eid khutbah with KALEMAH, which is usually in Mushrif Park, for those of you who want to come. And then after that we will start the classes, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, according to what Allah Azza wa Jal makes easy. Zain. I think that's enough, inshallah ta'ala. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.